tells us to escort him back to his mother's house so he can plan a revolution. So I assume that we're planning a revolution now? I mean,
We are the
honestly, he
revolution.
seems like he's late to it because we were doing this all along. But,
You know, it was that sort of thing where it was like, oh, you were planning a revolution? I was planning a revolution. Hey, maybe we should, like, have a joint revolution.
So I hear you like planning revolutions.
Right.
Also,
You showed up. You showed up at the guillotine party wearing the same clothes.
say hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet.
Hello, internet.
hello.
We've been recording for the last several seconds.
Internet.
Oh.
Okay. This scene brought to you by the letter K.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
K for killing fucking Prophet Sword?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Okay.
It is now.
Because usually
it's
we're brought
a
to you by
heading-
the letter D.
that's right.
True
Stay on brand.
It stands for dicks.
Just in case you didn't know.
Yep.
But
The
If
more
you zoom
know, the
out-
rainbow. Yeah.
Of it from the D, like there's a bunch of equals, that
Yeah.
trail a long time, and then somewhere down the line there's an 8. So
Jeez.
It's glorious. It's beautiful.
You're like, are you reminded of your IRC days?
always
ASCII
I live
art
it.
is an exquisite touchstone of internet culture.
That's right.
One of my coworkers lives
Um,
next to a train track, and so part of our daily situation is he will unmute just so we can hear the train. And for some reason, that's inspired some of us to put ASCII trains in the chat of our weekly meet, and it's a weird fucking. The pandemic's done weird things to us, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but
to be
I
fair,
can understand. I mean, maybe it's that pandemic life, but I can understand the humor and the joke of the guy who unmutes so
as
he
soon
can
as I
fucking hear
said
his
it, I was
train.
like, oh yeah, like you weren't doing weird shit before the pandemic like that. And no, that's 100% fair.
yeah,
the-
it was
yeah,
just a different
so-
flavor.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
same shit, different universe, different reality. But anyway, so yeah, let's.
It's evolution. We adapt to our environment, Tony.
Yeah, speaking of adapting to our environment, we have an angry mob to arm.
That's right.
All right.
So to set the scene, Jimena has gone back to the house in the meantime and has returned to this tiny apartment with Ernesto and some of the rest of La Balen's crew who are now helping, plus some of the refugees, basically the prisoners that Xenia had freed that now want to help. And they're loading all the cache of weapons from this apartment into a cart outside in a side alley under Ernesto's supervision, because Ernesto did not lift a damn thing. There's other people to do that. They're more than happy to do so. Although he's given directions multiple times and played the backseat mover plenty of times as people went into the stairs. Yep, that's right. Just use your knees.
No, he
You're
pointed
not-
with his lips. Over there.
From behind the
See it. I
cigarillo,
can see it.
he
Like,
gesticulated
he's not-
with his pouty lips.
He's not Filipino.
It's a Colombian thing too.
Right? He did not point with his lips nor his foot.
He did say the thing a lot though,
The thing.
which leads me to believe he's getting a little on in years.
Oh.
It's possible. Speaking of getting on in years, there's a delightful lady in this apartment, Jimena,
Oh,
who's offered cookies and tea and
Did she also call her Maria?
100%.
Because now it's.
But in my case, that actually is my name.
Yep. So it's for Jimena, it may or may not have been creepy. Like because she acts like she's known you for years. He's like, oh yeah, like you, so glad you've come and visit. You know, we never chat anymore. I'm so happy you're here.
Big,
Have some cookies. You have cookies?
big abuela energy.
Jimena is just like, oh, there's cookies, Kay. Like, yeah, we never talk anymore.
Right.
Why is that?
Ernesto mostly watches as you get pulled into several meandering, reminiscing conversations about people you have no clue about. That may or may not be related to this Maria character. It's still unclear in those conversations how Maria may or may not be related to her, but you know.
Once met a girl.
And after a while of this going on, oh, you also met a scrawny runt of a kid, just straight up like, you know, French novel city urchin Lovos. Looks several years younger than he probably is because he's clearly been malnourished, and you're not quite sure why because he's clearly bunked in this house. So there's food here. So,
Bro. A minute, bro.
Bro, Minna.
This boy had no name.
No name like at all?
No.
no.
He sure as fuck has one now.
So the temporary slate is that he's Jose Nuevo now.
Temporary.
So-
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure you made it official with him quite yet. There were hints that he was about to get a name, but yeah, like
Give
this.
him a name. Is he no longer a fairy?
This runt is apparently guarding the door. Magnus is also there, like basically reinforcing the shit out of this door and doing a proper job of it. So yeah, this is a sort of a weird setup. And after a little while, you hear some commotion from downstairs as you hear the voices of your comrades talking with this kid and Magnus and being brought through, and you hear this boisterous voice with a deep southern Castilian accent, sort of chatting with everybody down there, and you see this group sort of running up the stairs. All of your companions, Magnus, the boy, and this very filthy man with salt and pepper hair, but it's all wild, just scraggly and going in every direction. He also has a beard, which does mostly the same. And he's beat up as fuck. He's covered in welts and bruises and cuts. He's missing an eye, and there's like a dirty rag like covering half of his face. But the moment he steps upstairs, he carries himself as if he's wearing beautiful dress, even though he's wearing like stained pants that are cropped at the knees, and his belt is a rope. He approaches the old lady and drops to a knee and grabs her hand and smears, in the process, some dirt on the lady's hand. And he's like, "Mother, I have returned. I hope you did not worry too much." And a lady is like, "Oh yeah, oh Francisco, oh you're back from the shipyard. Oh, so good. Did you have a good day?" It's like she's not really seeing him. Like her eyesight doesn't look that good, but even if you can't see him, you can clearly smell him. And he says, "Yes, mother. The foreman is breaking our backs, but still we carry our burden as only us Odyssean can."
Jimena's like standing silently, just like, except for the crunch of her eating the cookies, just like watching this happen. It's like,
And as you do that, like finally he sort of pats the lady's hand. He's like, I will go wash my face before supper. And he sort of turns around and notices Jimena and sort of approaches you, Jimena, with a saunter, and immediately makes to grab your hand to kiss the back of it.
she's like, she's got a plate in one hand and a cookie in the other hand, and she's kind of like, I don't know what to do. She's like, she does the like, don't touch my food.
Right.
Like,
And he sort of pauses when you show that you will not do that and just does like a deep bow as he says, "I do not believe we're acquainted."
no, oh no. Jimena is like, you're right. We are not. Like,
Congrats.
perhaps though, I think you need to wash whatever accent's coming out of my face. Like, whatever. You need to wash much more than your face. Not to be rude, but you smell terrible.
He breaks into laughter and sort of smells himself, and he's like, "Yes, you're quite correct. You know, you get accustomed to it when you sit with it too long, and it's terrifying. I need a scrub." And he sort of takes a step back, almost as if not to offend you with his odor, and says, "Thank you for staying with my mother, and welcome to my home. I am Don Francisco Rubio Alastor Veracruz. Everything here is yours." And he says as if it's like a palace, but it's clearly like just a shitty apartment, right?
I love this man.
And he sort of takes a step back and he bellows. It makes the glass in the apartment rattle. And he says, "Boy, water. I require a scrubbing. Bring your best scrubbing hand."
Oh. Oh.
And
Well,
then like spits crumbs, and then like tries to compose herself so as not to.
like,
laugh
where's all
and
that
face
going to
everybody's
happen?
face.
I don't want to be
No,
anywhere near.
he walks into the side room where all the weapons used to be as people are funneling out. Meanwhile, the kid is sort of taking off the belt that had his pistol and his sword on it. And he's sort of making a face like, really? Like, do I have to do this? And he sort of looks him over. Francisco sort of looks him from head to toe and says, "Did you not hear me? You were promoted, boy. You are my second in command. That comes with responsibility. Get to the scrubbing."
Zhenya steps between them and does purification and cleans him. Like, no, that boy does not need to do this.
Ooh, is this 7th sea prestidigitation?
Yes.
More or less. So
One
yeah,
of Zhenya's sorceries is to just clean.
Well, Dirt obeys you. It just goes, woo!
you have to put a little oomph into it because there's a layer of filth on this man.
What's
And
called
you-
purify.
Yep.
So
So, before long, he is only now covered in bruises and cuts.
I healed him enough.
the smell no longer emanates from him.
His clothes
But-
are probably so gross, though.
The boy is busy opening a window because even though he doesn't smell anymore, the stank has entered the room and will take a moment to leave. But yeah, like his feet are no longer gross. He's walking around barefoot, right? And he sort of pauses and pats himself, and then for a second, he looks at Zhenya, but he also looks at the boy, like, just, did you just do this? I should have promoted you earlier. But then he realizes what happened, and he's like, my
Oh,
thanks.
That magic
My
bitch is at it again.
Yes. I thank you. Although you have deprived my boy of a very valuable lesson.
I don't think the word deprived is the word I would use.
Well, and this is where we disagree. But, boy, get a basin still because I need to shave. And
Okay, that's
he
fine.
sort of steps into the side room,
That's fine.
and the kid follows with a spring and a step. The door shuts behind them, and the lady just keeps working on her knitting and lifts her head, and he's like, she looks at Zhenya, still sees Jimena, and is like, "Oh, Maria, you're back. Good. There's cookies."
Oh, thank you. Do you need more tea?
I think it's getting cold, so maybe.
I'll heat it up for you. And does so.
Hand it to Jimena.
Yeah. Please.
Ernesto is sort of watching this whole thing unfold, like leaning on the railing of the stairs, and he's like, "So I take it the mission was a success."
I guess you could say that.
Jose Nuevo is a skilled swordsman. He can use some refining, but there's definitely an edge there to be honed.
He sort of pauses for a second and then looks at Jimena and says, "You know what the next step in mastery is? A student must take a student of his own."
Last time you saw me, I was a student. Now I am the master.
Underneath this beautiful moment, I'm muttering something about, although maybe he should talk to the Ison, because right now he having to two-hand that thing because he's like 3 feet tall and the sword is also 4. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if we teach him the Aldana way, he'll use a lighter sword.
Nah, he's attached to his sword.
I wasn't there.
Well, I don't know. I left my Eisen at home.
That's right. Your token Ison are
They're
staying
not
at
token
home.
at all, but I mean, I did leave them at home though.
They came
I
as
don't
a
know.
set.
Cute little twins is kind of a thing.
Right?
Are they twins? They're not twins. They're just brothers.
They're brothers.
Okay,
They look
they're
they
not-
look like each other. They're not twins, but they
It's
clearly
close enough.
clearly
Property
resemble-
brothers.
They come as a set.
No, the property brothers are twins.
No, they're not.
Yeah, I almost bye.
That blew my fucking brain. Wow.
Furiously types in Google.
So you
Yeah, kind of.
hear from the next room at some point, water splashing, but then there's like ruckuses that are mildly concerning. After I would say about like a good 20-30 minutes, out walks the kid again, followed by what almost looks like a completely different gentleman. he's wearing practical yet elegant clothing, now has a sword at his belt with a pistol. His hair is tied back, his beard trimmed elegantly, and he's wearing an eye patch that has a fairly garish embroidery on it. You think it's like some kind of like skeleton head, and like maybe a white rose is in there somewhere. Rethold, you're reminded of the boy's tattoo with the skeleton playing the
Trumpet.
fucking trumpet.
Yeah, the
You're
whole
like, oh, yeah.
family subscribes to Alchemy Gothic, and I'm kind of here for
Oh,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So.
Unabashedly. And he looks more like what you would expect from his demeanor at this point, and sort of gives like a big smile at that, and he's like, well, here we are, refreshed, ready after this little several weeks long spa treatment. I am ready to get back to work. And he sort of leans a little bit on his sword and says, but I find myself lacking followers right now. We will need to get word. The rest of my gang is out at sea. And he sort of looks at Rethold a little bit, and he's raises an eyebrow a little bit and says, you are not Guild, are you, son?
No, can't stand them. Terrible people.
Mhm.
That is a problem. They are staunch allies. I need to figure out how I can make contact with them.
That was sarcasm.
I apologize. I have been out too long.
That's fine. You know, there's like a joke that like every Vestin's
This-
a guilder, and you know it's like, haha, no, that's not true, but it's kind of true. You know, it's like that.
The fact that he didn't catch your sarcasm seems to have wounded him more
He
than
shook.
anything he has endured in the past few weeks. Like, he pauses for a second, like, am I losing my mind? I think I'm out of it.
I assume you were with some less than humorous hosts, and that can do something to a man's sense of humor.
Yeah, well, it was not as pleasant as I would have hoped, but such is the price for our little family to survive. My followers will have made it up to sea by then. I need to recall them, but that will take time. In the meantime, we have work to do. And he goes to one of the bookshelves and unceremoniously dumps an entire row of them and pulls a panel off the wall, and there's a cache in there. There looks like there's like old parchment. There's a coffer that seems to hold a pistol. He pulls out what looks like a human skull from there at some point and like places it on the shelf. But then
Does he
Finds
whisper
a-
to it? Yeah.
no, there's no interaction between the two, although he puts the skull on the shelf quite delicately.
It is
Um,
Maria.
And then
Alas, poor Yorick.
pulls a piece of parchment that looks like to be a map of Liso and unceremoniously moves his mother's like tea set out of the way. Nothing spills, but he's just like pushing that shit aside as he rolls out the map and points to it. And he's like, the weapon caches I promised you. I am a man of my word. And there's several spots in the city. To your eye, probably about 15 or 20.
So whatever refugee seems to be heading the the recovery the not distribution, but the process of moving the weapons out. There's a big fat distraction here in front of me purring. I don't know if this is being picked up.
Like
We saw the tail, and we saw the hand caressing the
Yeah,
tail.
I see a
the
cat.
mic there.
She's a
See,
little
she's-
quiet for it, but
No, it's like ASMR. You put the mic right by her gut.
it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I tell them to take teams and